I'm here to welcome you and wish you happy Easter. Everybody, I'm wearing my pink because that's what you do on Easter. You wear something bright colored and pastel. And when I was growing up, you also wore something new always on Easter. We got new shoes and new outfits. Couldn't wear them until Easter Sunday, which sounded great, except new dress shoes without being broken in are miserable. And to wear them all day Sunday with sore feet, it's just too bad. You got to break them in. Can't break them in ahead of time. You got to wear them Easter Sunday because everything's new. It's a brand new day. This is Easter. This is Estar. It is also the celebration of the Resurrection Day in the Christian world, and in other worlds and pre-Christian worlds, this was the celebration of Estar. Estar, the goddess of fertility and growth. And it is the fertility rites where that wonderful little bunny rabbit comes from. You know the one? The Easter bunny that lays eggs? Figure that out biologically. But I love it that we do, at this time of year, all of our deep, conscious awarenesses that we're not even aware of consciously, but in our subjective, subconscious mind, comes bubbling up. Right now, today, hour by hour, as the light makes its way around the globe, 2.3 billion people are celebrating their spiritual truth. Let that sink in. That's 31.2% of the population of the world today is celebrating. I don't know about you, but every year when I wake up on Easter morning, whether I'm thinking about anything religious or not, I feel that the life and the energy is different. It's stronger, it's better. So whether you are aware of that and pay attention, it's happening. You see, we say change our thinking, change our experience, change our life. Well, when 32% almost of the people in the world are changing their thinking on that day, on this day, and focusing on things of the heart, things of truth, things that matter, it changes everything in its wake. That means you and me and everything on the planet. I find it interesting that in this hemisphere at this time of year, it always gets colder for this weekend. You know, Easter doesn't come at the same time every year. You may have noticed that, at least not on the calendar. It comes the first Sunday after the first full moon after the spring equinox. And who says we're not pagans at heart? You know, come on, people. That's when they decide when Easter is. And they've been doing this for hundreds of years, as long as there's been a Christian calendar. I mean, think about that. This is not like just a Christian celebration that's done in a particular certain way. I have to say, I love it when I drive around on Sunday mornings, or by way here or wherever, and I see all these wonderful, strong, strict, heartfelt, conservative Baptist churches having Easter egg hunts. Sending their kids out in the yard while they're listening to the sermon doing fertility rites that go back way before Christianity. Now, they don't know that's what they're doing. It's just a fun celebration. I don't even know when it started to be associated, frankly, with church, but it has been as long as I can remember. That was the excitement. You get up at daylight to see what the Easter bunny left. And it's gone on and grown from there. You know, this time of year is built on an old mystic and mythical, I can't even say it, come on out, you'll get it out in a minute. The god Mithra, which precedes Jesus by many years, hundreds of years, was the primary religion of the Roman soldiers. And in that religion, Mithra destroyed his son, sent him into Hades for 3 days, taking with him the sins of the people and receiving the punishment for the evil of their sins, and was resurrected on the third day. The goddess Estar, for whom Easter is named, her son's got a rough deal in the old gods. Her son was crucified on a tree near the fields. This was not done as human sacrifice. It was a myth. It was a mystical idea. Crucified and bled out into the ground, and his blood revitalized and brought new life, new crops, new babies, new everything to the planet at that time. This day, this time of year, is ancient in our human experience and human beliefs and human practices. That's my whole point. I also found it interesting as I was looking around at this, that there's the other interesting idea is that the second largest religious group on the planet, which is about 1.8 billion people, are Muslims. So between Muslims and Christians, that's over half the population. And ultimately and finally, there's only a small sliver of the population that isn't churched or in some sort of spiritual identification. I think that's kind of amazing. Not sure where we get put in New Thought, whether we're in that non-affiliated or in that other category, but that I'll find out next time. So it's Easter, it's Esther, it's Mithra, and more. Those are just a few of the things that have gone on at this time of year. It is a celebration of spring, it's a celebration of new life. And that's what we're all about today. It's new clothes and new shoes, new ideas, newness everywhere you look. Spring fashions are out. People are painting it out, looking and enjoying all these new things. All of this is a deep call it's a part of our very DNA that we feel and relate to this thing happening right now. And that's why I'm pointing to that. Because wherever your current faith belief or ideas about what life is and what spirituality is, it is ancient and old and being pulled. And all people, more people go to Christian church on this Sunday than any other Sunday of the year. Churches have to plan extra services, and they have to manage parking lots in a way they never do because all of the congregations show up. Our centers often are New Thought, New Age, more New Agey, New Thought kind of places are smaller today because everybody's going with Mama and them back to the church they came from. Because there's also a whole lot of pressure, whether you believe any of it or not, to carry forward the family traditions that go on this day. To have those family events and experiences and feel those connections. Because that's what it's all about. It's that connection. It tells people who they are. Christianity is based on a central story, one story. Now, in that story, there are so many interpretations. 45,000 different Christian denominations in the world. Think about that. No wonder we all have a lot of different groups. Science of Mind is no exception. We have our groups too. But they all revolve around a story which unifies and links people and gives us a sense of connection and a sense of belonging to something. And I say us because many people link us to the Christian denomination. We are definitely not, but we definitely are. It's an interesting thing. Jesus is a great prophet and teacher, and we have believed since the formation of Science of Mind that the ideas there are very core to our teaching. But not that he is the great exception that came along to save all of us. Rather, he's the great example for all of us. Jesus himself said it That what we can do, what I'm doing, you can do and more. I mean, and that's true in so many ways. We heal in ways that he never even thought of or heard of. We live and grow in ways that he never knew about. And that is a blasphemous statement in many places. One of my early science abiding teachers said, Jesus came to point the way, and we've been studying his fingernail ever since. And I think there's a lot of truth in that. We get lost in the detail, we get caught up in that stuff, and get lost on what he's pointing to, which is what Easter is really all about. So here's the punchline from all of this. You can't have Easter. You can't have Resurrection Sunday without Good Friday. And that's the part a lot of folks prefer not to notice. So you don't have a lot of people at Good Friday services, but you sure have plenty on Easter. Because we want to celebrate the new life. We want to see the new life. And many people say our teaching is all about just celebrating the new life, and let's ignore anything to do with Good Fridays, even though every one of us have Good Fridays in our lives. And by Good Fridays, I mean, what Good Friday is. It's the good day. The story says that Jesus died on the cross. And that which Lee just pointed to and made his final statements to all of us. And whether you believe that to be a true story or a mythic story, which is one that is true and happening, whether it ever factually happened to a real person or not, however you believe it, that story is core, it's central to every human being in this part of the planet where Christianity is dominant. And in order to have that resurrection, you got to have something to resurrect from. In order to move into new life, you got to have something to leave behind. So new life, to embrace something, is to bring light out of the darkness. Now, I don't know about you, but I've had some darkness in my life. I've had times where I really need to not live in that anymore, and to have it be sacrificed and crucified and done away with for me. I prefer it not to be painful, but sometimes when I delay the letting go and the releasing, it can feel like a crucifixion to let it go. Letting go relationships that matter a lot, but which just don't work anymore. Or where one or another person in them says, I'm done. And you feel the heartbreak of that. Releasing what no longer serves us. Things in our lives that used to make a lot of sense, that just don't anymore. You know the old story, I'm sure by now, that of Christmas or Easter Day when they're baking the ham in the kitchen and they cut off the end of it and put it in the pan and put it in the oven, and the daughter is watching, the mom's doing it. The kid says, "Mom, why do you cut the end off the ham and don't you cook it?" Well, I don't know. Mama always did that. She's in the other room. Let's go ask her. So they go ask Mom, "Why do you cut the end off the ham?" "I don't know. I guess because Grandma always did it." "Well, she's taking a nap upstairs. Let's go upstairs and ask her." They go up to Grandma and say, why did you cut the end off the ham every time?" "Well, I only had a pot that big, so I had to cut the end off so the ham would fit in it." So here we are generations later, still cutting the end off the ham because it was necessary at some point in the past. So much of the pain and hurt that we carry and that continues to mess with us is stuff that just no longer serves us, but we're hanging on to it because it did at one time. It was protection. It was ways that we coped. It was ways to deal with things how they were, and they have changed, but we have not allowed our thinking to change with them. Think about where that would be in your life. What are the ham hocks you're throwing away? We don't throw those away in the South, but in other parts of the country they do. Yeah. See, it's those old feelings, those old ideas. That's what releasing is about. It's not about releasing things that still serve us, releasing things that still matter to us, releasing things we still want to do or be. It's about releasing what doesn't. Sacrificing being right for being connected. I don't know about you, but most of my relationships, that's always been an issue. I would rather be right, thank you, because I am. But there reaches a point where I'd rather be loved than right. Doesn't mean I can't still have opinions. So the Good Friday thing is that which goes before, is that which is dark. I have an interesting thing here from, before I go there, this is a tricky kind of conversation because it can start to sound like I'm talking about good and evil, darkness and light, as if they are two powers or two forces in our lives, as if I'm talking about a duality. And one of the criticisms that many people have of certain versions of Christianity is its dualism, that it's the belief in two powers. But at its deepest core, at its real truth, at its earliest expressions, it is not dualistic. It is polarity, and there's a difference in a dualism and a polarity. A dualism says light and dark are two different things. Polarity says light and dark are two expressions of the same thing. There is no such thing as a dark bulb. Not even a black light is a dark bulb. You can't turn on the darkness as a thing by turning on a switch. You could turn on the darkness by turning off the light. But there's still light. So light and dark are two ends of the same spectrum. They're two parts of the same, two ends to the same pole. Like a magnet has positive and negative. Those aren't separate different energies. They're just different ends of the magnet where the electricity is flowing in a different direction. Same thing is true with hot and cold. They're not two different things. Coming in here this morning when the heat wasn't quite up to where it ought to be has felt like a polarity. It's felt like a duality. It was cold. But the truth is, it was still warm in here. Nothing was freezing, nothing was icing over, and even if it had been, there was still a presence of heat. Hot and cold are one thing at different points in intensity and frequency. So they're polarity, not a duality. So I'm saying that to say when I'm talking about light and dark, when I'm talking about Good Friday and Easter, I'm saying those have to be together because they are a polarity, a singular thing, not because they're two different things. One with darkness and pain, the other with light and freedom. Sometimes we go through our pain in order to release and move into that lightness and freedom, because that's what's available to us. That's where we've been. And because we start out in a world that teaches us about all of these things that aren't the truth, that don't work and aren't real. And as we get more and more connected to our realities, those polarities may not be as distant to one another, so our pain may not be as extreme, and our joy may not seem as high, or may be higher, but as the polarities come closer together, they're both still very, very important and very strong and very real. So you may not suffer things the same you once did, but you'll have greater freedom. Hot, cold, up, down, same thing. By the way, where is up on a round planet, flying through space, that's looping and circling and spiraling? Which way is up? Depends on where you're standing, right? Up is a completely relative term. So is down. Relative to what? Where I am. Relative to gravity. Now, all that is simply leads us into this other idea that I want to share very quickly, is about the scientists are now telling us very clearly in this business of light and dark that there is a larger spectrum of light and dark than we have yet known. Human beings see light, and we know what is around us and what is there. I see this podium, so it seems real to me. I see you, so you're really here. I see all of my world around me. Everything in the physical world I can see is because of light. And yet I see only a tiny spectrum of the huge spectrum frequency that light is. And out in its far regions is something called dark. And there's also something out there called dark matter. And we are constantly surrounded not only by light matter that we can see, but dark matter all in between and around it. It's here, it's filling us, it's everywhere. And we are able, by changing our thinking and changing our seeing, to pull realities out of that dark matter into the light that we may not have known before. That's why when you suddenly decide you want to buy a red Toyota, everywhere you look, there's suddenly red Toyotas. Now, they were all there before, but you didn't see them because they weren't part of your reality. They were hidden in the dark. So those dark experiences simply guide us to what is more important and powerful and truthful for us of the light. The Toyota is a very crude example or experience of that. See, when we perceive reality, we are perceiving the light reality. But when we learn to open beyond our five senses, we begin to perceive things that are far beyond that. A big part of what practitioners learn in our training and teaching is that every cubic inch of space is filled with as much dark energy as it is filled with light energy, and it is all of that is part of the total creative power of the infinite showing up right where you are. And that creativity shows up in response to your thinking, your belief, your conviction. That's why we can say, change your thinking and you will change your prosperity. It's there waiting for you. It's available to all of us in many, many forms of prosperity, whatever forms you can accept and receive. But you change our belief in it, I change our thinking about it, we draw more of it out of the part that can't be seen into what is seen. Someone used to say, so if I'm treating for more money, where's that money now? It's wherever it is. And you're going to bring it to you by changing. But you're not going to bring it from somebody else. There's an infinite supply of goodness and power and availability. It's also how we can heal instantly. Our bodies are not only are filled with light energy, they are filled with dark energy. And that dark energy can transform and change in a heartbeat, in a moment. As we completely develop that belief in and feeling of its fullness, its possibility, and its greatness. So there's this vastness simply waiting for you to recognize that, like Jesus, you could say, it's finished. I am done with this old stuff. I don't want it anymore. I'm not playing there. Which is a real bad paraphrase of the words from the cross on Good Friday. I've always thought it was strange until I understood some of this, that Good Friday was called Good Friday. That's why. Because there's a deep understanding even in that spiritual world as well, that it was a good thing happening that day. Whether it was a factual thing or a symbolic thing. And instead we emerge into the now, into the love, into the power, into the goodness. So ultimately and finally, this is a day of celebration of the one power, the one love, the one intelligence that's underneath, behind, and with all of this that we're talking about, of the thing itself. and that in which we all are created, in which we live, which we move, in which we have our being. Because ultimately, believe it or not, every one of you, every one of us, is absolutely wonderful. You are the risen Christ in your life. Today we're celebrating you as well. And so it is. Thank you.